We are gluttonous in information, but we are starving for wisdom.
Nick's got this stacked up right over here. He's got the oranges, he's got the yellow stacked up, and he's got the blue stacked up. I think we can pretty much say who's going to win the game.
Oh, I just rolled.
Story of the game. Welcome to the DV podcast, where we talk about business, life, entrepreneurship, and how you can become the best version of yourself. On today's episode, we're talking with Sabastian Enges. He's a world-renowned sales trainer, entrepreneur, and he's going to be doing amazing things in his lifetime. The way he thinks about stuff is just such an interesting concept. And so this episode is actually when we were early on testing out different ideas. And so we actually played the game Monopoly while doing an interview. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know your thoughts. We'll dive right in. All right, so one of the things we like to do on this podcast is have the previous guest ask a question for you. And so previous guest wrote out the following question is, how did you get to where you're at today, and how do you plan to keep monopolizing your industry?
That was an easy setup. It's an easy question. When I was younger, there was a season when I believed that there was a secret formula or a secret sauce to success. I was very, in retrospect, I was very well read at a very young age. I think I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 11.
Wow, that's early.
Yeah. Which helped.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, to be fair, we didn't own a television and couldn't afford cable. So I didn't grow up watching television, so books were how I entertained myself. But because the issue was because I was fairly well read, I had a lot of head knowledge, but it hadn't integrated yet. So it wasn't experiential knowledge. So there's a lot of things that I knew here that I did not understand here. And in some ways that hurt me because I could sit down with somebody and hear answers to things that I was already very familiar with and think, oh, it couldn't be that, because if it was that, I'd already be there. Because I knew it here, I didn't know it here. And that is a big difference. There's a lot of things that people know. I say it this way, we are like gluttonous in information, but we are starving for wisdom. It's like we have tons of knowledge, but the conversion of knowledge to wisdom is the integration work of really getting to understand what it is you think you know. And so in my early experiences with business, I honestly thought there was just some formula or there was an element of luck. And I do think there is an element of luck to everything, if you want to call it that. But so when people would ask me things like, all right, I'd ask for advice from somebody who is successful or wealthy or doing well, and they would say things like, work really hard, stay the course, keep your vision in front of you, be patient. I'm like, no, I can't. Yes, I get all that. It can't be that. And so now here I am in this phase of my life. People ask me that question. I'm like, work really hard, stay the course, have a clear vision, make decisions daily that are based on what you want most, not what you want now. And that's really, really hard for a lot of people. And I teach that. It's like, just the simple filter is, does this decision get me closer to my goal or further away? And literally everything goes through that filter. What podcasts I listen to, what books I read, what I eat, when I go to bed, who I hang out with, who I date, who I don't date, who I don't hang out with. All of that goes through that filter. Does this get me closer to my goals or further away? So there isn't an area of my life that's reserved that's like, oh, that doesn't account for that. It's everything. So I think once I committed to that, everything got easier over time. There's 3 phases to momentum. I'll stop, but creating momentum is the hardest part, and you'll feel like grossly overworked and underpaid, and that's why most people never get through it. Second phase is maintaining momentum. Once you get there, success kind of starts to take on a life of its own. You just got to make sure you don't take your foot off the pedal, which a lot of people do because they think they've arrived. And then advancing momentum is when the game really starts to change, where everything takes on a life of its own. It's like it's building on top. It's like compounding on everything you're doing. And now you'll feel grossly overpaid and underworked for what you're getting. There's really 3 phases of momentum. So creating momentum is the toughest part. But once you get through that, things get a lot easier. It's a good question, though.
Here, let's pick our pieces out if we can actually play the game throughout this process.
Let's go.
You can go ahead and pick your piece first.
Oh, Battleship, that's easy.
Battleship, what do you want?
I'll do let's see. What is this guy right
Is that a horse?
here? Yeah.
I'll be the top hat. Well,
Top
nod
hat.
to Abe.
I had you for the car. You got to be honest with me, Nick. Have you ever won a game of Monopoly?
I have won a game of Monopoly.
Have you?
Yeah.
In the last decade?
Yeah,
Last
his
decade,
his
yeah.
nieces and nephews. He was playing against them. And
There were 10, but, you know.
7, of course.
Yeah. I actually haven't played in a while, though. I've been playing Catan.
Oh, I love Catan.
Yeah.
I was playing on the way here.
oh yeah,
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, and there's lucky number 8.
I won, didn't I? All right.
9. It's Connecticut.
Connecticut. You know the board off by hand, so.
Yep.
I'll buy it. I mean, let's do like a round of playing, and then we can jump to another question. And
Yep.
then,
I love it.
cool. Sounds good.
Who's the banker?
Nick's the banker.
Yeah, I'm the banker.
Are you honest?
Yeah, of course.
That's important.
How much is it? 120.
120. Easy. It's easy math.
All right.
5. Yeah. Not how I want to start, but I won't say no.
Which one is it?
Reading. Pleasure doing business with you. 6. You're going Oriental.
Yep.
You guys can fight over it.
You can have it, John.
What?
You can have it.
Oh, I'll bid for it then. You're on getting in?
Huh?
I'll buy it for 100 if you don't want it.
100? No, I'll buy it for 101.
Will you? I'll buy it for 120.
200.
200?
Yeah.
I'll go 250.
300.
It's yours.
I feel like I just got robbed. I know we've got only about 45 minutes for me to publicly humiliate him.
Well,
and
that
then
seems
after, you know,
unlikely.
private.
Yeah.
But, all right, cool. So I wanted to ask you, where in the momentum process do you think you're at in your life?
Well, it depends because you have momentum in different areas, right? So in my business and my core business, I would say I'm in the maintaining to advancing momentum. But it's like I would not say I'm fully in the advancing momentum. Maybe some would say that because there's a lot that I don't have to do anymore and it takes on a life of its own. But I see, until I'm impacting millions of lives, I'm not there yet. But so probably somewhere between maintaining and advancing. But it resets with every new endeavor, right? So as you know, I started getting aggressive in social media this last year. I'm very much in the creating momentum phase in that endeavor, right?
Sure.
So it's like, it really is task specific, or every initiative, right? We have a podcast. We're building out our studio for that, like very much in the creating momentum phase. So very much depends. And then you have like relationships. Relationships go through that, right? There's creating momentum, and then there's maintaining momentum, and then there's advancing momentum. So it really depends on the area of life you're talking about.
What are you identifying in like the current marketplace with like entrepreneurship? If you were jumping back 10, 15 years, like do you think you'd be able to accomplish what you've accomplished, or do you think that the world has changed and it's harder to get started?
I think it's easier to get started than it ever has by like a massive margin. But where people are getting stuck is it's all, the target or what it takes. The principles of success are timeless. The methodology is always evolving. And so there's a lot of people, they're stuck because they're unhappy with the way things are, and they're like, you can't even earn a living wage today. And that may be right if you're working hourly for someone else, but there's never been a better time to start a business, right? Like you got 16-year-old kids making $100,000 in passive income a month.
Well, people say it's saturated. There's too many people out there, right?
Right, 8 billion people. I'm sure 8 billion people addressable market. It's saturated.
And I agree with you, but I
Yeah.
think that there's this like almost like a victim mentality where people.
That's nothing new. That's humanity, right? Like if you study history, it's one of the dynamics of human consciousness. The first stage everyone starts in, there's really 4 stages of consciousness. But first stage is life is happening to me. I'm at the effects of life. And most people drop in here not remembering their origin, and they're separate from their creator, and as a result, everything is happening to them. I'm at the effects of life. And some people will go lifetimes stuck in that phase, and they're very in victim mode. Everything is they see themselves as a victim. And that's very scary, because if you hang out as a victim long enough, you'll eventually become the perpetrator. Like just follow that path. When somebody feels like a victim long enough, they will eventually become the perpetrator, and they'll be justified. This is why, principally, a lot of what I teach, I try to teach in structured, organized principles. When we react to error, we cause more error. And you see this historically over time. When we react in error, we cause more error. It's like the pendulum swings one way, and then it comes flying back the other way. And so we got to get people out of victim mode. And you do that not by teaching people what to think, but teaching them how to think, how to look at their world. Stage 2 in consciousness is they move from life is happening to me to life is happening for me. That slight pivot opens up a whole different worldview. What is life trying to teach me right now? What is my opportunity right now? And instead of looking at I'm a victim in this moment, it's like, well, what can I learn from this moment? Now, to be fair and to be clear, there are things that happen in people's lives in which in that moment they are absolutely a victim. Victimhood is I don't process it, and I stay in that for years to come, and I justify all manner of evil behavior based on something that happened to me years ago. Like, everyone has their sad story. Everyone has their victim experiences. Nobody gets through fucking childhood without that. It's like a rite of passage from childhood. Right? Now, it may be different to different people, and it's all relative, but everybody has their victim stories. It's what we do with them, ultimately, that determines the next stage for us.
And then stage 3?
Stage 3, life is happening by me. And that's a fun stage.
So we're a creator at that point.
Yes, and a lot of very successful people tend to operate there. It's like...
Consciously, or both consciously and unconsciously?
Mike, I would not speak for the whole collective, but I would say the majority of I've interacted with genuinely believe that they are the creator, that they are creating their life. There's an old saying, and I generally agree with it. We're all creating our own story. It's just generally only successful people are willing to admit it. And I have found that to be very much the case. And success, to be clear, and I say these things because these are very hot topics these days, success looks different to different people. I don't think there's a success, one size fits all in success, but the principles of success or the science of achievement to get to success is timeless. It doesn't change. It doesn't really matter what you're in pursuit of. There is a science of achievement. So I don't need to know what your version of success looks like. If you're going to pursue it, it's going to take a particular principle to get there. So anyway, life is happening by me. And then if you wanted to continue with that, when one becomes more, we'll say, enlightened, life is happening through me. Life is happening with me. You're co-creating, you're participating in life. But it's hard to get there without first getting through those first phases. It's almost like you can't teach someone to give that's never learned how to possess. And we screw that up a lot with children, right? Very early in life, we're teaching kids to share before they've ever learned how to possess. And then they're all screwed up when they get older and they literally don't know how to possess anything. Right?
So an example of like stage 4 consciousness, would you say like Gandhi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Life is happening with me. I'm surrendering to life. I'm co-creating with life. I'm in agreement with life. The suffering in this world, as I see it, is the difference between the story and our story. When we surrender into the story and we are one with life, we are a witness. We're observing life. There's nothing to suffer. Right? Or I would say, even in suffering, you find bliss as part of the human experience, like the novelty of the entire thing.
It feels almost like society right now is in this point where they're seeking things that may or may not be true to identify suffering in themselves. So people are now like seeking back, like looking back in like ancestral stuff that had happened, or like sexual, like
right.
As like a gender, and like because one group was punished in a certain time, and I'm part of that group, therefore I am also suffering from the same things.
Yes.
How do you feel? But like, do you feel like that's constructive or?
To To me, it's an indication. Certainly, we could say there is a karmic release that comes from some of that. But what we're really seeing is we're in the middle of a frickin' existential crisis where nihilism is on the rise in a big way because people don't know, they don't have a great crisis. They don't have something to believe in. They don't, like, right now we're pretty postmodern in most of the Western world, right? We're not very God-fearing, or we don't have this idea of this God orientation right now. And it's creating meaninglessness. And when people feel meaninglessness, they will create meaning out of crazy shit. But the best questions you can ask yourself is to sit in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and just keep asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? Until it answers back. And I have seen grown men cry. Surprisingly, how many men can't look at themselves in the fucking eyes in a mirror? But you ask that question enough times, you will get an answer, and it will rock you to your core. And when that happens, then all this shit that we think is so important, it's like, why am I so wrapped up in this? Mm-hmm. The ego desperately needs something to identify with, but it won't bring it. Like, it's like we see this, like people doing drastic things to their body and bringing up history to try to bring recompense or to get in alignment. And then you follow their life and you're like, weird, your mental health issues haven't gone away. You're no happier. There's no more joy. So clearly that wasn't the fucking answer. But you almost have to let people go through that versus try to argue. If somebody's not listening, don't argue with them. It's like, fine, go to as far into that hole as you can and report back what you've learned. Now it turns out it wasn't the answer. Oh, weird. And what happens is you can distract yourself with all of this outer shit. And then when the dust settles, it's like, okay, it's all good now, right? Like, oh no, I still have a massive hole in my fucking heart. Like, that didn't solve my problem. But from an outside perspective, you really want to lead with compassion and empathy there, because if you tell somebody who's going into that, hey, this isn't going to be it, and they don't want to learn it, now you're just resisting, and they'll take all their energy into fighting against resistance, which will only further slow down their evolution. It creates
friction in that relationship too with that person.
Totally.
They've already decided they're already doing it.
So it's like, if somebody asks my opinion, I'm willingly share it. Otherwise, I'm just going to support them in their journey. Is every human signed up for a lesson? And it's their journey to learn. So I'm like, okay.
It's like if your spouse, your partner puts on a dress ready to go out and she says, hey, how does this look, right? And like the dress is already on, the makeup's done. Like, baby, the dress looks amazing.
This is a tricky one. Yeah, you pick your battles.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I identify as?
You should roll.
You know what I identify as? A winner. Let's roll.
Yes, I love it.
All right, 6. 1, 2,
Pennsylvania.
5, 6. Based on getting robbed from you bidding me high last time, I'm low on money, but I'll still buy it.
Really? That's aggressive. Okay. 11. I like it. And I'll buy it. St. James, get 20 back. Oh, yeah.
You could probably do a couple rolls.
Yeah,
Did you roll yet?
Yeah, just one right now. Yeah.
You got
it's
St. Charles?
St. Charles.
Or
yeah.
St. Avenue? State Avenue.
State Avenue, yeah.
You know this board like crazy. Do you play this as much as you play Catan?
No, I haven't played it in a while. St. James, I need my, don't cheat me out of there.
I am interested, you were saying you're reading as a kid. St. James. Mm-hmm. You said you were reading as a kid. Like, what was your childhood like? Like, were you growing up in, off grid, or like what was?
I grew up in the country, which was great, Kentucky. I grew up in the country, and I grew up. I'm technically, what do they call that? An exennial.
Okay.
Right, like I'm in that time period between full-on millennial and Gen X. I really don't identify with Gen X, but I'm on the front end of the millennial generation. So it's like I remember a time before there was internet, but I also grew up with the internet. I remember a time without cell phones, but 9 is going to put me at red.
You were 10. Yeah.
Was I?
Got 10. Yeah.
Did I get 10?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Atlantic, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
So 580. 260.
Worth every penny.
260. Taking your chance?
Yeah.
20. But I 240. Get back there. I loved the way.
Oh, great.
Looking back, I love the way that I grew up because it was a different set of values. When you live in small community, there's a lot more interdependence on one another, but there's also a lot of independence, right? You learn how to take care of yourself. And so I grew up hunting, fishing, camping, navigating in the woods, all stuff that like later on in life I found was very useful, very I look at the world differently. It's hard to be socially responsible if you're not first personally responsible.
What's this for?
I have to pay everybody $50.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Passive
Yeah,
income.
Yeah.
Make money while you sleep.
That's what I'm looking for.
How big was the population?
My graduating class had 157 people, I think, in it. And the town had like 3,000 people in it.
Oh, wow.
We go back quite often now, and I'm actually
Yeah.
purchasing some land. We're gonna do some projects up there, but I think the town has 7,000 people in it now, so it's growing.
Oh, it's growing.
But it's pretty small.
Yeah.
And I love it. I'm like, one of the things that killed me about moving to California is like your neighbor, like you're taking a pee in the morning and shake your neighbor's hand. And like,
Yeah.
hey, good morning. Like, it's a very intimate setup, you know?
What do you think about the craziness that's going on over in California right now? I mean, there's a lot of friction. It seems like there's a lot of politics stuff going on. By the way, I can't afford this property, so
Oh, I'll buy it.
280.
Yeah, I'll buy it.
You buy it? You want to auction him on it?
Uh,
It'd probably be in your best interest to
yeah.
snap it up
No,
before
you
he
don't wanna
gets
get in there.
the three of them.
I'll do 300.
300.
I'll do 310.
I'll do 320.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do 330.
I'll do 3.
We're gonna be messed up if he gets all three of them. So
True.
I will pay you money to buy that property if I have to.
Nah, you
$100
don't do that.
I don't have $100.
Oh my god.
I'm a college kid over here, you know.
Oh, someone has to buy it, huh? I'll do 350, and that's the most I can do.
Okay, I'll buy 360 then.
All right, go for it.
370.
No, I can't do it. Yeah.
Well, at least we got him up a little bit there.
Where's the 50?
But yeah, there's a lot of friction in California that people are fleeing. I think the what they call the mass exodus is slowing down a little bit, given that COVID restrictions have pulled back and there's a little bit more certainty with what's happening. But generally, it seems like it's such a beautiful place that people are operating at a high level are scared to be because high taxes, high cost of living, high restrictions.
Yeah, I don't think California is. Where is I?
I think
Park Place.
you're on Park Place.
Didn't I roll an 11? Because you rolled the.
He rolled. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. You're
Yeah, and then
right.
I rolled 11.
Oh, then I have to go. Yeah.
So I'll buy Park Place.
I owe you a couple properties.
Let's see. Oh yeah, you do owe me a couple properties.
You can afford Park Place?
Kinda. Thank you. 470.
You own this one, right?
Yeah.
270.
He has it.
370. What'd you land on?
Oh shit, that was after your turn. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about doing what he's doing right now.
Give me
Oh yeah. Yeah.
give me $20 back,
Okay.
if you would. For the bank. Thank you.
And I landed on your property. That one right there.
When it's
Atlantic,
mortgaged, right?
before or after I mortgaged it?
After.
Then I don't. There's nothing I can. You're good.
Okay.
But
I don't think California is. There's two kind of schools of thought, and I think you're seeing an extreme populist view in both camps right now, which is very concerning. It's very right or very left. Left, in general terms, is about social responsibility. The right is very much about personal responsibility, right? It's like it's not on society to fix your problems, it's on you. Now the truth is, and why America's, I think, worked so well for so long, is the truth is actually in the middle. When the two parties, when they're working together, keep that healthy tension between going too far towards it's on society to fix your problems and too far to the right where it's, on the individual. But we're seeing extreme views now where people are really doubling down on one or the other. And that's not good. Historically, that is not a good place to be. And so when I look at kind of how that's playing out, the way you see, like, the poorest run big states in the country right now are arguably blue states, right? And that's like, well, why would that be? Like, if drive through LA, drive through Seattle, drive through Portland, it's horrific. So I'd just be asking questions, like not judging, just, well, what leads to that? Why would it be that way? And so, and sometimes this is hard for people to just kind of step back and look at. So don't judge it, just ask questions. Well, what leads to this? So, and there is a bit of an exodus in California, and it probably is needed, and for a number of reasons. But I think it's a pretty tough place to live for a lot of people. Financially, it's not an easy place to live, for sure.
Do you feel like the person that's going to come in and save California will be a Democrat, a Republican, or independent, or something else?
I think the formula for saving California is the same formula for saving the United States right now, where we get past fucking politics and we start actually coming up with real sustainable solutions for the most people. And I think like capitalism has had a really great run, and we're in kind of a late stage capitalist game in the United States right now where the wealth gap or the equity is so far in the haves and have-nots that you see this throughout history. This happens. When that gap gets too big, there's a whole group of people that get very resentful. And if we don't learn from our history, then it will reset. And there's usually a great reset about every 80 or 90 years. Like if you've read The Fourth Turning or Generations, they're both great books. He walks you through this. It's like, go back 80 or 90 years, World War II, 80, 90 years before that, Civil War, 80, 90 years before that, Revolutionary War, 80, 90 years before that, French War. Like, like the Great Reset in regimes happen about every 90 years because it's like, okay, it's okay. It's like Monopoly, right? At some point, I'm going to own enough properties here that you guys are going to get really annoyed playing with me, and you'll look at it like there's like no chance I'm ever going to win. Why do I continue to play? That's like late stage capitalism. Luxury tax, you can pay that directly to me or the bank. Oh, you got to put $500 in the. You have to do that, right? That's a house rule, but.
What's this for?
Bank.
Okay.
So it goes here, and then when you land on free parking.
Okay. What happens when it gets taken? Do we put another 500?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I like that.
And
rule.
then all taxes
go in there.
Anything that's paid to the bank goes in there instead.
Why are you saying directly to you? Because you're going to be getting it later.
Yeah, exactly.
How much is it?
It's $100.
Oh my gosh, that's like the rest of the money I have.
I know you're in a.
I made a bad move, I think, over here.
You're in a tough situation. Yeah, I was surprised you bought the railroad, to be honest.
Well, I think it's an opportunity to be a trading tool. It's like
it could be
early on if you don't land on stuff.
Yeah, that's true. 11.
I want to acquire as much stuff as I can. So.
Vermont, pretty sure. Yeah, I'll buy it for sure. Just give me 100 for pass and go instead of 200.
There you go.
Thank you. There you go, 6.
6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
The greenies?
Yeah.
Or communal
I'll take
chest?
it. Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Which one is it? North Carolina?
North Carolina. Yeah.
Nice.
How much is
Good
it?
one.
How much is it over there?
300?
300?
Do you have it?
It's steep. Oh, you still have a 500 out there?
Yeah.
Oh, you were hiding it.
I didn't buy anything.
Did we only get one 500 or 2?
2.
I think I only got 1. Honestly. Do I have another one stashed?
But the thing is, I have to admit something. I knew you were gonna dominate, so no, I didn't mean to do that, but we'll make it fair.
Thank you.
If you say so, I believe you.
Yeah.
An honorable man.
I only had one.
So back to the business front. Like, what do you think it is that's allowed you to thrive so much with your business? Because there's a lot of people out there trying to start businesses, and 99% of them will never get to the place where you're at. So,
I think you decide one day that I'm going to do this or die. And for me, it was
burning the ships.
Yeah, it was like you just got to do it, and it's like it's not a blunt instrument. Sometimes that's a good one. Sometimes people have the grit, but they're like a blunt instrument or like a fly hitting a window. They just keep hitting the window over. Oh, this time. They're not growing and learning. You got to have the grit, but you also have to have the willingness to continue to grow and become more aware of what's holding you back. And that's where a lot of times people get screwed up. I see lots of people that are well-meaning and hardworking. They're just not aware, and I will definitely buy New York. That's exciting.
Man, your brain is operating so quick. It's amazing, right?
It is.
So, what is it, 200?
It's the extra 500 that he
Yeah, I
got.
don't think that's what it was. Brought it all together.
300.
So for new entrepreneurs getting started, what is the first skill set that you would have them pick up?
How to learn.
That's a good one.
Too many people quote we were the most well-educated generation in history, and it is an absurdly arrogant and stupid comment to make. What is the only way we could possibly know we're the most educated generation? The fruit of our lives. You're always known by your fruit. The fruit of your life tells the world and forms the world of what you know. Mm-hmm. So simply, if somebody wants to share with you how to have a wonderful marriage and their life is a shit show, I would humbly suggest you not listen. If somebody who sits at home all day, depressed and does nothing, wants to tell you what the state of the world is and what the political world should look like, I would tell you that's not the guy to listen to. And part of it is, going back to your question, it's like we haven't learned how to learn. So we get these operating assumptions about the world that are not highly informed, and in very cases very experiential and emotional, and then we try to create a worldview around it. Go out and do something. Like, that's the first thing. Go out and do something. Expose yourself to the world, and the world will teach you what the fuck you think you actually know or don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's not a very popular thing right now.
It's not. There's a guy that I met that influenced my life a lot. His name was Mr. Duggan, but he went from making like $50K a year at the age of 55 to being worth $3.2 billion at the age of 62.
Damn.
Yeah.
7 years?
Yeah.
To a billionaire?
Yeah, and he basically
Incredible.
had two principles, but one of his principles that really stuck home with me was our greatest ability as human beings is our ability to learn. And I went to an Ivy League school, so I was like, okay, I never studied how to learn, but that was it.
So you went to an Ivy League school,
Yeah.
and it wasn't something that was taught. Which one did you go to? Princeton?
I went to Cornell.
Cornell.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Carol Dweck wrote a great book called Mindset, talking about growth versus fixed, right? Mm-hmm. Growth mindset people tend to be more resilient. They figure things out. They don't need to know everything. They figure it out as they go. Fixed mindset people tend to think they're either good at something or they're not. And if they're not good at it, they just give up and move on to something else. I'm like, that is the most bizarre thought process to me. But a lot of humans are like the fly that keeps hitting the window thinking it's going to open, and then that's why you got dead flies on your windowsill. They just keep hitting it until they die.
So if you were to give someone the 1, 2, 3 of how to learn anything and get whatever they want in life, what would that process look like? Like how to learn?
The first thing I'll talk about my big 3, because this is going to be part of my group coaching we're going to be doing a lot. The big 3. So the things that we should have learned in school that we didn't. How to have healthy relationships, right? Emphasis on emotional intelligence. How did we get through K through 12 and then another 4 to fucking 8 years of college and not learn how to have healthy relationships? That's bizarre. Right, that's number one. Get good at, like, and I'll explain why in a second because you can back test what I'm saying. Number two, get good with money. I don't know if it's still this way, but when I was on a college campus, the first fucking person, the table that was set up as soon as you walked into the square was the guy trying to fucking get you on a credit card. Right? In debt immediately, and they're handing out free pizzas.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, hell yeah. Right after they just got their FAFSA money or their grant money or their scholarship. So what do they think? Oh, free money. So they're in debt right out of the game. Thorstein Veblen was an economist, American economist with a German name. In the 1920s, he wrote an essay called Conspicuous Consumption. And it's interesting, America and capitalism really is predicated upon continuous growth, credited growth. And so we're trained at a very young age to go into debt, right? And debt isn't necessarily bad. What kind of debt you're in would determine whether it's bad or not. But most people don't have financial sense at all, which is how they find themselves in dumb situations.
And consumerism and debt is pushed as such a good thing in our culture.
We
buy more stuff, zero interest financing.
Right, because the entire economy is leveraged. It's built on leverage. Right, so the easiest thing, I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when I was, I don't know.
10.
No, I was like 15.
8.
8, yeah.
I was in high school.
It's coming out of the womb just like with it open.
But it hit me because he makes a point, that was the first time I got introduced to this idea. Your liability is someone else's asset. So I just started thinking about that. Like, my liability is someone else's asset. My mortgage is somebody else's asset. And if you have a credit card that you don't pay off at the end of the month, that credit card is somebody else's asset. So when you start changing the way you look at money, it changes how what kind of decisions you make. And then the last thing is your health. So that's the big three. How to get good with relationships, how to get good with money, and how to get good with your health. Health, for a lot of people, doesn't show up as a big problem until their 30s. Their 20s, you're still running on a lot of hormones and your body's generally healthier, so it can put up with a lot more shit. You'll start to notice your health in your 30s or your late 20s to your 30s. Now, that I'm generalizing here. There are certainly people that struggle with their health much earlier than that. But arguably, those are the most three important areas that we should be learning to have a high quality life. And most people, and just back test this for anybody listening or go through this, most of the pain that people experience in their 20s is tied to one of those three things. And usually a sick combo of them.
I agree.
So how the fuck did we spend 16, what were we learning? 16 years in school, and what were we learning?
Right. There's like, I think 2 skills that I've taken from my schooling and actually applied it. One was writing. I actually enjoyed English class and was writing
awesome.
papers.
Yep.
And 2 was running percentages to know how much profit I'm making on a table.
Boom. I love it.
Did you roll a second roll because you got doubles?
Did I roll doubles? I think it was a 5 and 11. If
Okay.
I remember right, because I was on Vermont. Yeah.
Oh wait, then that's your roll.
Yeah. That's
4?
Sure, you can take my roll.
No.
You want to get your own roll.
I thought it said 4 again.
I
Yeah, you,
Okay.
you owe me. St. James. Oh, you're over here. Park Place. I'll take it. 35.
$35.
Yep. Coming up now.
Do you own any real estate? Like
Yeah.
Personal?
Mhm.
What's
I
what's
wish I
this?
would have bought a lot more over the last 2 years instead of focused on my business, but
Is that yours?
that's that'll be $14, sir.
Is the passive income on your real estate as good as the passive income you're making right now?
Debatable. To your question about how we learn, though, things that I would employ, get better at asking good questions. And don't make assumptions. So much of our world right now is based on assumptions. People would rather make assumptions than to risk looking stupid or to risk offending someone. And so that's a very scary world to live in. So number one is just get good at asking good questions and don't make assumptions. If you could just do that, then become more aware. There's really 3 layers of awareness. In my book, I'm going to be talking a lot about this, but like becoming more aware of yourself, how you are responding in the environment. So base layer of awareness is your behavior. And if you backtest this, it's surprising how many humans are not aware of their behavior, how they show up. It's animal, it's habitual. They don't even realize it.
They're on autopilot, essentially. Yeah.
Totally. So again, fly hitting the window. If you're on autopilot, nothing's changing. So awareness, 3 levels of awareness. First, you become aware of your behavior. Second layer, you become aware of your emotions tied to the behavior. Third layer is you start to become aware of what you don't know or what you're not aware of.
Yeah.
And that will help in the learning process.
What would you say is a good indicator? So for me, like what I think of is if there's an area in my life that's difficult, there is an area that I need to learn something in.
So I say it this way. Any area of our life where we continually get an unintended negative consequence, we are unaware. We don't know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. And that is, I tell people all the time, don't get into morbid introspection. Like people start, well, what should I become aware of? And they just start picking shit in their environments. Like, don't do that. You'll fuck things up more likely than not because there's no tether. You're just out there feeling. Simply what comes to you, what arises out of your daily life. Where do I find conflict? Why don't have the energy to get through my day? Why do I get brain fog in the middle of the afternoon? Why do my relationships go through these patterns? Why do I have these desires I can't seem to get rid of? Like, what arises? Okay, well then let's dive into that. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out what this shit's about. And if it isn't serving you, do something about it. And that's the whole thing, is you got to get to a point where you realize it isn't serving you. I can't help anyone who is unwilling to change because what they're doing they believe is an answer to something. And so that's the inner work. The person has to get there. And that really is the core to addiction. I've learned to be far more patient with people who deal with strong addiction because I look at it from the frame of they're doing this because they honestly believe it's an answer. It's a solution to another problem. Does it make sense?
Do they believe that though, or is it the pattern and habits that are making them do that?
100%. It is a pattern and a habit, but it started as a solution. Right? I'm doing this. Okay, so I get addicted to caffeine. Well, why am I addicted to caffeine?
To work more, work harder.
It was a solution for energy.
Sure.
Right? So I get addicted to drinking at night. What was the solution to? Maybe to bond, maybe to connect, maybe to chill out. Right? So it was a solution to something else. So if you work backwards from there and go, okay, well, what was this person trying to solve in their life with this addiction, this habit that they can no longer break? Then you can work backwards, and if you can get to the actual problem, a lot of times the problem or the addiction will drop off on its own. It's like a mother. I wish I could say this happens all the time, but more often than not, a woman gets pregnant that smokes. Smoking drops immediately. They'll pick it up right after pregnancy, but while they're pregnant, it's like, why? Because that value, the solution that they were gaining from whatever they were trying to fix, is overridden by, I'm now going to be a parent. The child means something more to me. Does that make sense? So with addiction in general, it's hard to break addiction if the person isn't convinced it isn't the answer. That's why they keep going back to it. It's an answer to something in their life. So you got to go back with them like, okay, well, what is this? What is this an answer to? And a lot of it is brokenness and trauma.
So if you can restructure those values with someone where they prioritize something that's more productive above that habit, that addiction, you're going to be able to help correct that addiction.
Correct. And you can see this a lot with people who get that when they start doing the work, they start realigning their values. So we have 6 human needs psychology, which I mostly subscribe to. I think it's a useful kind of paradigm for understanding behavior. There's basically 6 human needs that people are driving, psychological needs that are driving behavior. So you have certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. And so when you look at really addictive behavior, it's usually meeting multiple of those needs. Right?
Probably not growth and contribution.
Growth and contribution are kind of like,
They're external ones?
Yeah, they're the first 4 are really about you. The last 2 are about others, loosely. So people hang out in growth and contribution a lot. By the way, you could still get very addicted to things in there, in the last 2. And the things that are most addictive can fit into all of those. So for instance, video games are, especially for, I shouldn't say just men, but it's very easy for, there's just any woman listening that has a boyfriend who plays video games knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, they would rather spend all night staying up playing a video game than working hard at their business or their job. And their girlfriend is like, what in the fuck is this about? Like, how are you so obsessed? Well, it's pretty easy. Can you get certainty from a video game? Yeah,
Yes.
you know the rules of the game. You know the world you're living in. You know your weapons. There's certainty. Is there uncertainty? Yeah. You're playing against other players, PvP or PvE. There's uncertainty. Can you get significance? Yeah. Rank, title, achievement. Can you get love and connection? Absolutely, both in the game and in community. Can you get growth? Highly addicting with growth. Go from level 1 to level 40. Can you contribute? Can you help other people? Yeah. Destiny and raids. Like, you come in, you help other people get through a raid. So literally all 6 human needs can be met by, that's why I know the metaverse is here to stay. When it hits, it's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. But you can get all of those things met. And it's like, it doesn't surprise me that people could get totally immersed in this world and get totally addicted to it. Because they're getting their needs met. Make sense?
So besides going back to the problem and like thinking back to track point, you know, the root, is that what you're saying is the best way that you feel like to handle addiction, is to go that way versus add weight to the future and what you want?
Well, it very much depends on what kind of addiction we're talking about. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. So there's certain things here that need to be addressed by medical professionals.
Sure.
But just behavioral addiction, if we can go back and look at, well, what is the need that I'm trying to get met? What is this a solution to? What do I believe this is a solution to? And we can work backwards and we can figure that out. So for instance, a lot of people who vape or smoke, when you talk about the first time they vaped or smoked, it was like, well, I was out with my big brother. I'm just making this one up, but this is a very common kind of thing. I was out with my big brother and he was hanging out with his friends and they handed me his vape. Well, what did that make you feel? Like I was one of them. What is that? Significance, love and connection. Right? So that was the underlying reason to do it. It was a way to bond and connect. And you see this with smokers. Go out. If you're out anywhere, hey, we're going to smoke. If you don't smoke, you're like, what the fuck? Everyone else goes out. They go out and smoke together. It's a point of bonding. Right? So it's like love and connection or significance is a part of that addiction. Right? So we go backwards, like, well, could I get that need met another way? And then as you start to satiate those needs other ways, you start to realize the desires change. Especially, and the goal is, if you're gamifying this, the goal is to take as many of your behaviors as possible and choose ones that are long-term sustainable. So a lot of us are trying to get our psychological needs met by things that are not long-term sustainable. Right? Fucking potato chips on the couch. Meeting my need for satiation, certainty, uncertainty, whatever it is. Well, that isn't a long-term sustainable thing. You're going to get fat and sick doing that. So what other things can I do that get those needs met but bear fruit long-term? And that really is, success is a journey, not a destination. It's a lifestyle, not a moment in time. And this fucks a lot of people up, especially who are following people on social media and they look at their life on social media and they think that's what success is. Like, no, you're getting the highlight reel. Most of success is a bunch of fucking monotonous shit that is not terribly exciting, right? Like, most people follow me around during the day, they probably find that most of my life is really boring. And then about 10% of it, they're like, fuck, that's amazing. Right? So success is a journey, it's not a destination. And that throws a lot of people off. But when you think of it that way, then you start thinking, well, what is sustainable? Because if you're trying to get to success through unsustainable means, that is going to be major pain for you and probably the people in your life. And I think we all know people who've tried that, right? Like, that isn't success. You're looking for things that are sustainable. And when you do that, then success is really the fruit of your lifestyle. It's like your life bears fruit. And the fruit of that is sustainable. So what is that? Okay. Tying your behaviors to meeting needs in long form or long-term sustainable ways versus short-term that are unsustainable. And then you put it into our life and relationships. Unsustainable. In health. Eating shit food that makes you feel good in the moment, but rips your body apart. In finances. Going into debt specifically for consumer shit, right? Anything where you're drinking, eating, buying shit that doesn't have value on debt horrific. You are mortgaging your future for a present moment, right? Not sustainable. And relationship, turning over relationships, serial dating, going for the high of that first few dates and then turning over. You're never going to grow or develop as a person in relationship if you're always doing that. So swap those out those are meeting psychological needs, but in a short-term way. Swap those out for long-term plays. And then you start to notice, wow, I'm building momentum in my life. And now things seem to be changing, right? And it's more long-term. And then a lot more effortless. I think it's my role.
So what's like the next evolution of Sabastian? What's Sabastian 2.0, 3.0, whatever that looks like?
I firmly believe, I keep hearing in my heart, it's from the book of Esther, for such a time as this. So I feel like the last 10 years I've been quietly working on my craft and I now feel a release to participate in the human conversation. And so that's, especially through one more. So a lot of the evolution for me is just now getting more involved in the conversation, the human conversation. So that's getting more on social media. I'm like, in my core, I'm actually very shy and introverted. The last thing I want to do is to get out there.
This stuff.
But I know that's where I'm supposed to be. So I reluctantly get into it. Illinois.
Well, it's been a good conversation. Where can everyone find you?
At Sabastian Enges on any platform. Your platform of your choice, but I'm most active on IG and TikTok currently.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
$6.
$6?
Yeah. All right, so we are getting close to the end of the game, and Sabastian is losing miserably.
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, he's got this stacked up right over here. He's got the oranges, he's got the yellows stacked up, and he's got the blue stacked up. I think we can pretty much say who's going to win the game.
And
Nick just landed on this.
He just rolled.
So that move that I just captured actually ended up being the winning move, where Nick went bankrupt. I tried to acquire his properties, but it didn't quite work. And Sabastian came out the ultimate victor. Congratulations.
Hail the conquering hero.
That's it for today. All right, guys. See you next podcast.